Welcome to this episode of the People Playbook podcast. I'm pretty stoked today. We have Tony Gareri on our podcast today to just share his thoughts on leadership, team engagement, culture, and how he describes himself as the chief of WOW, which is really cool. So Tony has a lot of leadership experience. He runs an amazingly successful company. You've probably heard of it, Roma Moldings. So there's probably something in your house right now that Tony's company has touched in some way, based on the vast spread of his company. But more importantly, he's all about purpose driven leadership and how do we get to get leaders to engage their teams a little more and create a high culture and just get those teams all moving the same way and actually loving what they do. So with that, Tony, really excited to have you on the podcast today and welcome to the show.
Jason, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Excited for this podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to go down a little bit of road because I've had the opportunity of hear you speak a couple times, and you always impress me, and that's exactly why we want to get you on the show really fast. So I want to open it up. So if I look at you and I talk to you, or I've seen some of the articles on you, you describe yourself as the chief of WOW, which I absolutely love. It resonates with me. But what was the moment in your career where that taught you that you have a real power to surprise and delight people along the way and get people to a better place?
Yeah, so the funny story about the Chief of WoW, I put it on everything, and it's probably been with me arguably for 16 years, and it still garners when I'm meeting new people, it still garners the question, why Chief of WoW? What does it mean? And I mean, selfishly, it's good. It opens up the opportunity to have a great conversation, specifically with new partners, or if I'm, coaching someone or whatever it may be. But ultimately, listen, I think we live in a world that everything's commoditized today to a certain degree, whether it's bottled water, cell phones, swimming pools, you name it, it's somewhat commoditized. And I think the only thing, an organization, including mine, has left is how we make people feel. And I kind of have this radar, or this kind of, upward kind of chart that says you can make people feel okay, you can make them feel good, really good, exceptional, or wow. And I think as CEO or leader, that's just an unofficial title. I think as leader, you set the benchmark. You set kind of what is acceptable, what is the high level bid, and so to speak, if you're going to ask your team to do something, how do you hold yourself to the highest regard? And I recall being, CEO for a while, but when I was in a company in the US called Zappos.com, an incredible company that opened their doors to me and really opened my world to what was possible. I saw people wowing the heck out of their customers, and that word stuck with me. They didn't want to have, good customer service. They didn't want exceptional. They wanted a wow experience. And having been in this company, I stayed there, did the whole tour of Zappos for 3 days. And I walked back and said, one thing I took back, I said, wow, if they're always striving at this level, really good must feel amazing because they're aiming for wow. And they've all, coordinated this whole kind of mantra experience around how do we surprise and delight people? Because they just believe fundamentally, the more you do that, the more customers will feel that, the more they'll come back for more of that goodness. And that stuck with me. And I think their claim to fame specifically is if you outservice someone, obviously you need great products. And we talked about that, but okay, kind of having great products today is kind of like showering in the morning. I hope you did, but like what else? And that benchmark for me was like, I would love to work for a company that strives for not good, not great, but exceptional. And then I would want to buy from a company who's not okay with okay, so to speak. And I'm like, if I love it so much that I want to be the pinnacle of it for my own company.
Yeah, you said something there, and when you're talking about your own company and your company, you do work in multiple countries, right?
Yeah.
So by doing work in multiple countries, it means that you have many different teams, right? And with those teams, obviously, you get a lot of diversity, right? So how do you actually keep workplace happiness so it's contagious and it gets sticky with all those teams, specifically when they are so diverse along the way? How do you do that to make it sticky?
Yeah, and some are different languages.
Yeah.
I think it starts off with being intentional. I think a lot of people have a hope and wish strategy. They put some values on the wall and a cool slogan from ChatGPT, and off you go, right? I think step one is, how intentional are you? How real are these values as the top of the company? Because I believe the values and mission stem down from the CEO. So if a CEO doesn't believe in the values or the mission of the company, chances are leadership's not, chances are middle management is not, and then kind of trickles down. I think for us, being intentional is number one. But what does that mean? So we do things to gauge the pulse. So we do a number of initiatives throughout the company that help, foster and create, culture. Some being, core value awareness weeks that we host, and a few number of other things. But I think what we do best is we check and measure, and because we don't profess to get it right all the time. So we kind of make a tweak. We test, we measure, we look, and we course correct. Because what might work in Atlanta doesn't work in California or doesn't work in, Veneto, Italy. So they're all very different. So I think number one, being intentional. Number two, testing. Number three, taking a pulse check, and then course correcting if you did make an error, so to speak.
Yeah, it's obvious you take action. One of the things that you said, it resonated with me, is you said workplace happiness should be a right, not a privilege. You said that. And that really hit home with me because I believe that it's one of my core values, right? When you say that, what can you tell us that is one of your, what is one or two daily habits that you ensure that you're doing and the team's doing to make sure that is a right and not a privilege?
Yeah. So for some context, I grew up with the adage, I'm of an immigrant family, immigrated here. My dad had $500 in his pocket, put his head down, worked, took some risk, and so be it, did really well. But I was taught or brought up that work had to hurt. And if it didn't hurt, that means you weren't working hard enough. So it was this vicious kind of pinwheel, and kind of this narrative that it wasn't supposed to be fun. So what are you complaining about? Get back to work. And I think for many, they've subscribed to that same kind of narrative I did. And it's partly cultural, partly societal. I don't know where it stems from, but it is what it is. It was only until I went and explored other companies, because I was in a quest. I had this narrative, the jaded guy, like work has to hurt, and like, what are you complaining about? At least you have a job. Like, I was not the quintessential leadership culture driven guy. And so when I was on my quest to develop as a leader, and I did a lot of work, I would find myself in companies that really doubled down on leadership, really doubled down on culture. And the one underlining kind of thread that I saw in all of them is that they were very intentional, on building culture, but they were also taking a really big pulse on how were the people feeling, and not just kind of touchy-feely, like really diving in surveys, reading surveys, course correcting in surveys. And there's this, the statistic out there, you don't have to take my word for it, but 67% of employees in the United States are disengaged in their work. What does that mean? That means they're not going the extra mile. It certainly means they're not going to wow your customers. They're not engaged, therefore they may not, do the best work. And so if I was going to deliver this remarkable company and take it to the next level, I had to change that paradigm. I guess what I did was, when I took over the company, I did a litmus test, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Roma to your family and friends? And listen, I've gone on record to say it was dismal. Like, the results were humbling and dismal. It was not good. It was sub 5, and I don't have to tell you that correlates directly to everything from product innovation to customer experience. And when you're aiming to shift that, you have to understand what's important to people. And yeah, you need to know what's important for the company, but before anyone's gonna, care about the company, some leaders got to care about them, and really defining what's important to you. What does success look like to you? Because success, Jason, to you might be 6 weeks vacation and this pay. For others, it's like, no, I want 2 weeks vacation, but I really need the money, or somewhere in between. And the more we understood who's showing up and what's important to them, and try to genuinely get them to that place, the more they started to care about, okay, I get this culture thing, Tony. I'm with you. And it wasn't a ding overnight. I always say culture's never an overnight experiment. It's usually a 5 to lifetime experience. But I would say the more we started caring about the people who showed up, the more they started to show up for the company. And then listen, it's contagious. How do you listen to people? They want to work with great people. So if you hire B and C players, some A players start to leave. Like, are you increasing the pedigree of the people on your team? That invigorates a company. Or are you going downstream and it's like, oh, here we go again. We hired one of these guys or gals, and it could be demoralizing. So yeah, I just think the more you can figure out what's important to your team, they'll show up for you in spades.
Sure. You talk a lot about ideas and concepts, and I know you're all about big ideas. Do you have an example of an idea that didn't work and you thought it was a big idea that was going to work, but based on that not working, it actually helped you with success in the future? You touched a bit about that when you said, "Hey, when I went to the leadership of Roma, and I got that sub 5 rating." But is there any idea that you've actually implemented and say, "Hey, whoa, 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 this isn't working. It's hurting us right now. I course corrected, like you said, and it actually helped you be a little more successful."
Yeah, two come to mind, and believe me, we made a lot of blunder head ideas, and
Yeah.
but I rather try and fail than not, right? So two instantly come to mind. I think one was, we're all about systems and processes. I think we can agree to many are. We are, and I think it's either a system process problem or a people problem. Well, we created systems and processes to make life better, and in this one case, it didn't. What we did was when we created events within the company, we said, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z event on, I don't know, August 1st across the platform, right? All the companies, we're going to do it that day. And then September was going to be, I don't know, baseball day. And then, August or October was going to be something else. Well, what we failed to realize is culturally, there are different people in different parts of the country who celebrate different things at different times for different reasons. And I think we were a bit tone deaf in that. And I think we were less, again, it wasn't about who we were doing it for, but rather how does it serve us? Because it's easy. Everybody does X on September. So it was more an initiative that we thought, well, it's good. Everybody does it at the same time. But what we learned early on was that we got adoption somewhere and then other places it flopped. And in our surveys, which we do a lot, by the way, we actually canvass our team with surveys, and we actually read them, and we actually action the surveys. That's why we have good participation. But what we've learned is culturally there are different things for different people at different times, and be a bit more mindful of that. So I think the more we did that and people are like, oh, okay, they listened, the more they're like, okay, listen, we said we like, I don't know, potluck in July. And potluck in July outside in Atlanta when it's 9,000 degrees, probably not the best thing to, you get the point.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think for us, it also built trust and it gave the teams an understanding that we're listening. So that was one. And then I think the second one, which is cool, and it kind of it kind of touches on your second topic of, when you have companies across various countries and language barriers, how do you bring people together? Well, one of the things we did early on was I believed if we were going to do it, we had to bring people together physically, and that's impossible. So what we did was we have an all hands meeting where we shut the company down and for 2 hours, and we actually, believe it or not, talk to our team. We give them updates. It's kind of a state of the union meets updates, meets inspiration. It's a lot of fun. We've been doing it for over 10 years. We're on all hands meeting 43. But what we failed to do was pick the right times and the right cadence. And so it became obstructive to the success, where all we wanted to do was bring people together and talk to them all at once. And so what we learned from that was, what are the best times a year? And instead of having 4 or 5, we do it 3 times a year. It's 2 hours because we shut the company down during the day. And we've never looked back. Like our all hands meetings, if anybody's listening out there, number one, I live stream them all on the internet for all to see, including my competitors. But if you ask me what's one of your secret weapons to bringing people together, is our all hands meeting. It's a calibrator if I've ever seen it. Like, think about this. It's 3 times a year, strategically placed. It brings everybody together because we're in different areas. Everybody kind of goes off, does their thing, and then we bring people together again. It is a fantastic thing. The day after the all hands meeting, I feel like the company is like just floating on air. Like it's an invigorating experience.
Yeah. Actually live stream them?
We live stream them, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
so
That's yeah, I
we
love that.
hire a company because that's out of our kind of wheelhouse. They do it professionally. We syndicate it on all social platforms. So at the beginning, our customers didn't really grasp, why are you closing for 2 hours during the day? I need to get my orders in. Why are you doing this? To today, they're like, knock them dead in your all hands meeting. I'll be watching. And it's so, like, Jason, I can't tell you, it's so beautiful. And listen, competitors are watching, which I love, but also their teams are watching, and it's having them question, why doesn't my company and my industry do this?
Yeah.
And we've recruited a lot of people as a result of, Tony, I watched your all hands meeting, and I'm not the only speaker. We share the stage with like 5, 6, 7 people, and because who wants to hear me for 2 hours? But yeah, we it's one of our lead magnets for A players.
I think that is outside the box thinking. I think it's courageous, and I think that it's well, I haven't heard of another company doing it, so I absolutely love the
Thank you.
fact that you live stream that. And I love the fact that you actually say to your vendors and your customers and your clients, hey, that's our time, right? Because I find too many times leaders and companies will change the meeting with their own team to make room for a vendor or a client. And we have to remember that it's our team that we shouldn't be changing the meeting on that stuff. We need to change the meeting on the vendor or the client sometimes because it's our team that is going to actually run the business and create that high fueled culture, right? Tony, you talk about hiring and thriving around the crazy ones, right? And when we talk about crazy ones, can you think of one of the craziest people you've ever hired, and what in particular did they change? And I think you might be a crazy one too, Tony. FYI, right? But
Yeah, maybe. Call them the crazy ones, or you know what? It's all predicated on what you want. Like, what do you want your company to be? If you're looking for steady Eddie growth, that we're looking for abundance and prosperity and excitement, and I want to be able to tell my team, like, there's an ongoing joke at our company, are you bored yet? And they're like, is it possible? But how many companies, if you truly ask people and you said, are you thriving or are you bored? The answer, I don't want to tell you, is the latter, right? Yeah, one individual comes to mind. We hire a lot of crazies. Some pan out, some don't, but that's just life. But there's one gentleman that came into my life. He was a director of sales, smart guy, really smart guy, big picture guy. We shared, the better part of 3 years together, and I'll tell you that story after. It was so good that I mean, we were just off the charts, and the I want to tell you a backstory before I tell you this story. Is he would still be with me today, but he said, Tony, you had me through your leadership conferences and whatever the case may be. You had me thinking about my career, my life, and what was important to me. And, in your coaching with me, I would always ask him, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal, Mr. Crazy One? And why aren't you doing it? Well, it just so happened his big, hairy, audacious goal was to start his own business. And now, how do you knock someone for going on their own and fulfilling a dream? And to this day, he's like, dude, it was because you kept drilling into me, the BHAG. That's the only reason I left you, but that's a good reason why someone would leave. Having said that, he was about 3, 4 months into the company. And our mission is pretty simple at our company. It's 3 things really. It's to move, inspire, and wow. And we believe if you do all 3, literally you'll be doing backflips, and so will the customer. Like, everybody, it's a win-win-win-win-win, right? Now, if we do 2, if we move you and inspire you, there's still fireworks. But if we get to the wow stage, it's the customer for life. Well, he came to me, and throughout the company, we have a give back program. It was like Roma Cares, and we sponsored, all different events and did charity auctions for hospitals and things of that nature, and a lot of which I don't really say publicly, but because I think you should do that stuff. And be quiet about it, but nonetheless, you asked. So he came to me and we did a bunch, right? Some in the US, some in Canada. And he came to me and he said, Tony, I think our give back program doesn't align with our mission to move, inspire, and wow. I'm like, what? Okay, I'm interested. Talk to me. And he said, I have an idea. I said, okay, give me the idea. He said, listen, I've done mission work in my life. And I'm like, what do you mean mission work? Like missionary work? Yeah. I said, okay. He proceeded to say that he sponsored a child in an orphanage in Haiti and thought it would be his dream if he could hold this little baby that he fostered. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if we get like, I don't know, a bunch of people, we go work in the orphanage, we donate our time for a week. And I'm like, where's Haiti? Like, I didn't even know where Haiti was.
Yeah.
He's like, right beside the Dominican Republic, right? Anyways, I'm like, what do you say to that? I'm like, okay, would you run it? He said, yeah, I would love to run it. So, what was it? A few months later, we coordinated with the lovely lady who has the orphanage there, and 10 of us were off to Haiti under security guards, and we had to go through, like, it's a nightmare to get there. But yeah, he got to hold his foster child, sorry, and I got to witness it. Now, mind you, I was there for 7 days. I think I cried 6 of the 7.
I was going to say, it must have been so moving.
Yeah, we recorded the whole thing. Like, it's on our website and everything. Like, still, as I talk about it, it's emotional. And then since then, we do mission work around the world. And we grab it's all voluntary. And we go around the world and we try to make it a slightly better place as a result of who we are.
That is a absolute wow factor. So
Thank you.
while you were saying that, I was speechless, and that's it. It's an incredible story, and I can only imagine being part of that if you're part of your company or I'm just actually putting myself in the place of the individual that asked you that and how you listened to understand as opposed to just listening to hear. There is a difference for sure, right? And just what an impact or a difference you made in that person's life and your company's, people in your company's lives as well, just being able to experience that, right? And just seeing that's an incredible story.
Yeah,
Hey,
appreciate that.
yeah, no, it's refreshing because you talk a lot about just doing things different, and one of the things you talk about a lot is fun and how do you keep the fun in teams and within the leadership team. So if I'm thinking about the word fun, what role does fun play in leadership to you?
Yeah, I think for us, ultimately you want to hire people that are right for the role, and you want to hire them typically for 3 years out, typically not for today. But rarely do people say, are we going to have fun together? Are we going to like dent the world a bit together? And so it's part of our onboarding. So when we onboard, we have an onboarding process where we actually take you through a culture vet, and it's a cross-functional team. Doesn't matter if you're the director of ops or you're the packaging, in charge of, packaging or on the saw. You go through something called a culture vet. So even though the HR lead loves you and the direct manager loves you, you still go through a culture vet. And unequivocally, if you don't pass the culture vet, and culture vet is about a cross-functional team of 4 to 5 people, and they're basically having a conversation with you, outlining our values and actually trying to depict, do you actually align and will you thrive in this environment? And if someone says, unequivocally, it's not going to work culturally, then they're just not hired.
Have
And
you ever had somebody say that's not going to work for me?
Yes, it's happened. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Even though I've liked them, even though someone else liked them, and they go through PI as well as, that's kind of where we met. So you got to go through there's certain hoops, but if you're not going to thrive culturally, like if you don't align culturally, and when we say culturally, culture to the values of our company, things like, deliver open, honest, transparent communication, or be humble. Number 7 is be humble, or deliver wow through service. Like if your pedigree, if inside you don't possess that craziness, it trumps all kind of the PI, the skill, the experience. Because we believe we can teach you anything. We can teach you how to chop a frame, join a frame, call a customer, close a deal, but I can't teach you how to be humble. You either are or you're not. I mean, I can, but it's way too much work, and the runway is way too long, and the risk is too high.
And Does it have to be complete alignment with the leadership team to pass that cultural vetting to get in?
So oftentimes it's not only the leadership team vetting. In fact, it's never just a leadership team
Okay.
ever. So it could be a customer service, like a customer care individual. It could be someone in finance. Like I'm talking about random. It could be IT.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. You said something in that last conversation. You said, you were talking about direct conversations and delivering, you know, how do you deliver a tough message? Because and still keep the culture thriving, because sometimes direct conversations, they sting a bit, right? And they hurt a bit, but I'm a big believer that a lot of times those direct conversations don't happen now in today's world. And how do you make sure that they do happen but still make sure that it's balanced so culture still thrives and we're good to go?
Jason, that's an excellent question. So, I subscribe to kind of this thought that an employee, we'll call it employee, team member, call it what you want, but someone on your team should always know where they stand, always. And if they don't, you're failing them as a leader. Like as a leader, it's your job to have them know exactly where they stand. So traditionally, what would you do? Like we host one-on-ones. Like I host one-on-ones and they're 15 minutes. They're 3 questions. I know where people stand with me and they know where they stand with myself. So I think number one, that's bare base. But I think where we differ is if you've built the culture right, meaning you've established values that you actually hire and fire by, because we fire by values as well. And if you clarify a vision that's really clean and a mission that's not with no ambiguity, not like we want to be the best framing company in the world. No, no, no. Like really, like what is it? Carve it out and live it. Then tough conversations become easy because it's not about what I want you to do, Jason. And what we really train the leaders to do is ask them if their actions or behaviors aligned with the values of our company. See, it's not about what Tony wants. It's arguably never about what I want. And like we just had a tough conversation that we let someone go. Like we're not immune to it. We let someone go in a different country. It was a leadership role. But he or she they knew that they weren't living the values of our company. They knew it intrinsically. And so when asked, do you feel that your actions based on what you did or did not do you think it aligned with who we are as a company or our values? And they're like, it didn't. So it takes out the you should have, you could have, why didn't you do this, to do you think you aligned? Because you and I both know alignment to the values is number one. You can do a blunderhead idea because we've all had them in our lives, but was it truly rooted in our value system or not? And was the goal to move, inspire, and wow? Because if it was and you cost us 25 grand, that's okay. But if it wasn't, they know, so to speak. And so it's never really this, well, I don't know. Because I always tell them, like, this is not about what I want. We've created core values by the people, for the people, far before you got here. And we hire and fire based on them because we hired you based on those values. And so I think it takes out the ambiguity of, well, I thought and maybe. And it diminishes the I'm the authoritarian leader at the top, you must kiss the ring, to more, do you think those values align with what you did or didn't do? Small shift, Jay. Small shift, big impact.
Big impact. You said when you do your one-on-ones, you ask them 3 questions. Can you share those 3 questions that you asked?
Yeah, super simple. It's not hard at all. Number one, I asked them, and it still happens, I tell them, this is your time to pepper me, not me peppering you. So number one, what's going on? What's on your plate? Number one. Number two is what challenges or obstacles do you have? And what's your mitigation path? And then number three, based on once we go through those, is how can I serve you better as a leader?
That's it. Simple.
Now, we do it with a frequency. I meet with my leader, the people that report into me, I meet with them twice a month. Every Thursday, they get half an hour each. It's never half an hour. It's usually less because there's a cadence and because the way we structure it. But I want them to know this is your meeting with me. How can I serve you? And am I serving you correctly?
Wow. Tony, that's fantastic. And what I love is just the simplicity of it. And it's not one of these, answer these 40 questions, come back with a survey, give me, red, green, yellow, all that. I just love it's just so simple, and simplicity breeds clarity, clarity breeds results, and we get to a higher culture because of that. Listen, you've been so generous with your time. I just do have a couple extra questions for you
Of course.
before I let you go on your day. If I ask you what your belief is about leadership or happiness, okay, and what has completely changed from when you started out your career to now, what would that be?
I think it really dovetails from what I was just talking about. I think it's a huge privilege to be a leader. It's
I
also
agree.
huge. I also think it's a huge responsibility. Huge. And I think if your team knows that, um, and knows that you show up to serve, like a servant leadership mentality, because that's what we adopt, it changes the complete game. They know I'm in the trenches with them. They also know I can't be with them all the time, but they know when they need me, I'm there, and that I'm striving for them to win. And I make it very clear, like I am so blessed. Like God's blessed me beyond my wildest dreams. As I'm 47, as I turn into, this latter part of my life, is how do I get others to feel like I do? Because today money's not my driver. I've done very well, and I thank God for that. When you can show up as a leader, really striving for people to become their best, they're already great. But how do I make them slightly better or help them see the infinite possibilities of who they are? Truly, like, and craft out what's important to them. And, over time, they start to see the wins over time, because it's not. And by the way, I think you got to be in legacy mode. I'm in no sprint. It's not even marathon. I call it legacy. This is my life's work. And so I think if you could show up like that, because I was brought up like work has to hurt, bosses suck, and that's just life, suck it up, buttercup. But I want to change that paradigm, and I believe we have at our company and a number of other companies that I've helped coach and mentor. And yeah, so I would say that's number one for me.
That's fantastic. And my last question is, if you had to go back and talk to your 25-year-old self, so you're 47 now, and you had to talk to the 25-year-old, what's the one piece of advice you'd give that 25-year-old to help him along his journey?
Oh, you didn't have that on the list. No, I'm
I
kidding.
know. Yeah. No, I always
I'm
surprise you.
kidding. No, this is fantastic. There's a number of things, man. Like, um, and by the way, what I tell myself, I try to tell others today. One, surround yourself with great people, man. Life's short. I blinked and I'm 47, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna blink and I'm gonna be 57, so to speak. Yeah, life is short. Surround yourself with great people. Number one. Can I give a few?
Sure.
I think number two, your life is not infinite. So I live my life backwards, Jason. Not sure if you know that. I'm 47. I got approximately 33 Thanksgivings left, or summers. And so how are you becoming intentional with time? Because at 25, you think a 47-year-old is like ancient, right? I recall it. So I think be intentional with time and understand your time is limited. I think the surround yourself with great people. And I would say this, like, success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. Like, depending on what you want to become a professional soccer player, you know, emulate the best, follow them, understand their strategies, read books on them, watch them, because success leaves clues. And I think while I think education is important, there's not a direct correlation to education and success, whatever success is.
Yeah.
But I do believe, like, if you do some of those things correctly, your life can be abundant and far beyond what you think. So for 25, I would say take more risks, try things. You're young, surround yourself with great people, make sure you're having fun. Life's short.
And I have to tell you that success leaves clues really resonated with me and stuck with me. And I'm going to, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to steal that from you,
Totally.
because that's fantastic. With that, Tony, I can't thank you enough for giving us your time today. Every time we can get your ear or have some time with you like this, it's advantage me, right? Because I always pick something up from it, and I know our audience will as well. So with that, I will let you get back to your day, and I just want to thank you for being on the show and being so generous with your time.
Jason, thank you for having me. You're a gem to put these on, and I hope the community, really really enjoys it. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tony. If you loved that session and that conversation as much as I did, would love to have you join our People Playbook community in the link below.